If there's one thing I absolutely am convinced of, with the hindsight of some discernment and reflection on my own 15 years of public service, 2 terms as mayor, 2 as governor, it is this: that there is a balance, a symmetry, if you will, between how well we govern ourselves and how much we are capable of trusting one another. And make no mistake, progress only happens, in the words of Stephen Covey, at the speed of trust. Trust is essential. It's essential for human collaboration, coordination, cooperation, and the making of progress. And yet, if we are to believe Gallup polling, trust in our national government has never been lower than it is right now. Gallup polling also says that trust in our local government is actually a little higher now than it was 20 years ago. Why? I believe it has to do with the new way of governing that people like Ben McAdams, myself in my day, and other mayors, men and women who have to actually deliver frontline services, have been embracing with regard to, asset management, openness, transparency, and service delivery. In other words, there is, against this backdrop, a new way of governing that's emerging. And if the old way were most often hierarchical, oftentimes patriarchal, top down, bureaucratic, this new way is entrepreneurial, it is performance measured, it is interactive, and it is, most importantly, collaborative. This new way of government is all about using the map, geographic information systems, to show not only the latest emerging truth to everyone, but to give a consolidated, clear picture of what had been in government separate silos of data. And because the difference between a dream and a goal is a deadline, this new way of governing sets strategic goals with public deadlines. Deadlines usually within the servant's term of office. And it creates public-facing dashboards, not on just the lagging indicators, but on the leading actions that show people real time the things we are doing together to pursue the longer term goals for our common good. And we do this not within the straitjacket traditionally of annual budget process, of measuring inputs, but by setting a repeating cadence of collaboration, short, focused, every 2-week meetings, where, not unlike agile software development, we ask the questions: is it working or not? Should we pivot? Should we persist? What do we need to change to make it work better? Show us your best. So I want to talk with you about equity and this new way of governing. I'll share with you a couple stories, 1 insight, and 2 shifts for leadership, since this is the Asset Leadership Network. First story, Baltimore, true story. Back when I was elected mayor in 1999 in Baltimore, Baltimore was a majority African-American city, and still is. Back in 1999, I was white, and I still am. There is no issue more fraught with pain and suffering, and than the intertwined issues of public safety and racial injustice in the United States. And yet, I was elected on the commitment, and elected over 2 more popular African-American candidates, because I was the only one of us that was willing to commit to pulling us together as a people to reduce violent crime by 50%, to cut violent crime in half. And after 1 year of deploying this new way of governing, with a lot of sweat, a lot of hard work, including officers giving their lives on the line of duty, we had a pretty solid first year of progress, but we were still far too violent. So we received news. Eric Holder came to Baltimore, flanked by Elijah Cummings, Kwesi Mfume, and Barbara Mikulski. Everybody applauded that the Clinton administration was sending us a grant so we could hire 200 additional officers. That would be an enormous asset, if you will, for reducing violent crime, for restoring public order and peace and safety in our poorest neighborhoods, about which we had seen them do a series of television series. So we had a decision to make, where to deploy them. By the traditional way of government, we would have divided them probably equally between the 6 council districts on the left. Everybody gets 1/6 of 200 police officers. But if you look at the map on the right, those concentrated, deepest red areas on the east and west side of our town represent the places where, over the prior 10 years, we had seen the greatest concentration of suffering, of pain, of loss, of homicides, of shootings, of armed robberies. So we deployed all 200 officers to that small area of our city. We also did a few other things openly and transparently, like policing the police, disciplining the police where necessary, prosecuting police officers who misbehave. But over the next few years, this is what we were able to bring about in more life-giving ways, acknowledging the way that race and public safety have been intertwined in our country. We nonetheless were able to save a lot of lives. This is 1999, 2000, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We put our city, the most violent city in America, on a path to the biggest crime reduction of any major city in America over the next 10 years. We also, by the way, drove down police-involved shootings to the 7 lowest years, and that remains the 7 lowest years on record. Here's the one insight, gang. Drum roll. One insight, and this is where the pop quiz comes in. Here's the one insight in the form of a pop quiz. What great American president said this? You can put it in the chat bot. If we could first know where we are and whither we are tending, we could then better judge what to do and how to do it. This is a performance management and asset leadership quote. Who said it? If we could first know where we are and whether we are tending, we could then better judge what to do and how to do it. See some people saying John Adams, FDR, Barack Obama. The answer is Lincoln. Honest Abe. Abraham Lincoln said that if we could first know where we are, where we're headed, we could then better judge what to do and how to do it. Here's the one insight. 2 technologies have come together in a relative blink of an eye in human history and in the history of the self-governing people known as the United States of America. And those 2 technologies are geographic information system and the internet, evolving into the Internet of Things, formerly non-feeling, intangible things, now increasingly arrayed with sensors or geolocators. So geographic information systems and the Internet of Things have given us, for the first time ever in democracy, the ability to model, measure, and map dynamic human and natural systems real time and in ways that all can see. This is a big deal. How many of us went on websites to look at, when this COVID shutdown began a year and several months ago, to see where it was spiking, where it was declining? And you could see anywhere in the world. That's this new technology, in this case, modeling, measuring, and mapping the path of this pandemic and whether or not individual actions were being taken that affect the well-being of the whole and the common good that we share. Second story, repairing roads and bridges. Many of you will remember this asset collapsing. It was a bridge, Minnesota's I-35 West Bridge to be exact, rush hour, August 1st, 2007, a bridge that was structurally deficient, that everybody could have and should have known was structurally deficient, that carried a lot of human beings. And on this morning or evening, it finally collapsed. Moms and dads, sometimes with kids seatbelted in the back seat, plunged to their death in the waters in a great American city. About a month later, the National Governors Association was meeting. I was there. All the governors were there. And so too was Jack Dangermond, who heads ESRI, ESRI, the big GIS outfit and publishers of my book. And Jack said, "You got to get me a meeting with the governor of Pennsylvania, who I know is your leading advocate for greater investments in infrastructure, because I have a new bridge app that I know he'll want to see." Well, I said to him, "Look, Jack, you have to understand that as a former mayor, Governor Rendell has about a 45-second attention span, and he doesn't like blind meetings." But Dangermond was undeterred. He said, "I'll take whatever time you can get me." So I push a reluctant and grousing Ed Rendell into a corner. Jack Dangermond flips up his laptop, and with the first click of a button, he says, "This first map shows you Minnesota. Every green dot is a bridge over which human beings travel in Minnesota." Okay, fair enough. Second click. He said, "Now I've color coded the bridges in that international colors scheme that everyone understands. Green is structurally strong, and red is really, really deficient, weak, rickety. And then the other colors, yellow and orange, in between." Third click. Now, again, with open data, just like the data was open on the structural integrity of those bridges, with open data, I've adjusted the size of these dots to show you which ones carry over them the greatest number of human souls every single day. So you can see certain targets emerging between the intersection of the weakness of the bridge and the number of people whose lives depend on it not collapsing. You see certain targets emerge. He said, "Now with this fourth click, I want to show you where the federal dollars for keeping those bridges in good repair land." And with the fourth click, Governor Rendell exclaimed, "None of the bridges are landing on the target. None of the dollars are landing on the targets." To which Governor Jack Dangermond responded, "No, but they're all landing on the map. They're all landing on the map." This is a little predictive analytics explanation that my colleague at Grant Thornton, where I've worked as a senior advisor for Smarter Government, Mike Barba, put this together with regard to a goal that many states have declared of reducing fatal accidents. He said, the first step is descriptive. How many accidents occurred this week? When and where? The second one is diagnostic. What are the causes of those accidents? When and where? The third one is predictive. How many accidents will occur next week? Where and when? Prescriptive. What actions can I take to prevent those accidents? Where and when? Most governments, in my experience, rarely get beyond step one, the descriptive. And it's a shame, because we've never had better tools for integrating all of this. And that tool is the map. Add the additional layer of where and when, and put for whom, and then we start getting into the equity questions. But all of this requires two big shifts in the practice of leadership. And I hope you all are still with me. The first shift is the shift from thinking about leaders as the man or woman sitting high atop a pyramid of command and control on the left, where among the things controlled is information. Instead, to realizing that in an age where everybody knows things or can know things at the same time as the leader, being high atop that pyramid is not a place of situational or positional advantage. Instead, the place to be is in the center of a collaborative circle, responsible men and women focused on the latest emerging truth. Second shift, and that is from command and control to collaboration. No longer is the rule of "because I told you to do it" sufficient, either for the effectiveness of the action or the legitimacy of the order. Instead, the sort of collaboration we need today on the complex challenges we face as a growing population on a finite planet requires that shared understanding. And the opening ante in this new game of shared understanding is timely, accurate information shared by all. We have to be able to show one another that the things we're doing actually work. So, a couple final examples on transportation equity. Um, Here's a who, where, how in Los Angeles, huh? And then we'll start having a conversation if I haven't lost my connection. Church is silent here. Can I hear an amen? Um, so
Amen.
Good.
Amen. You're going to have to repeat some of those quotes.
Good. The church is still with me. All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right, church. So this is Los Angeles, huh? Open data. I mean, a lot of times people bemoan, oh gosh, we're not sure we have all of the data we need to do this, that, and the other thing. Baloney. There's plenty of data. Land it on one map so we can know. I remember shortly after the attacks of 9/11, I was meeting with some intelligence officials, and one of them had this great phrase. He said, if we only knew what we already knew, and then did something about it. So what do we already know? We already know a lot from the census, right? Yeah, it only happens every 10 years. Yes, it can be improved, but there is a lot of data that's already out there. So here's Los Angeles, huh? African-American population, you can get pretty granular down to a census tract. You can do the same thing in terms of Latinx or Latino neighborhoods and concentration of them. Income levels. In fact, you can also look at educational attainment. You can look at English proficiency, and you can come up with an index, as indeed Tim Lozano has done at Grant Thornton, an equity index that shows you where the delta is greatest for us to be able to cross in order to deliver on the promise in our republic of liberty and justice for all. This is a map showing the intersection, the where of both poverty and diversity. So up the left side, the higher you go, the more diverse in terms of racial and ethnicity. Up the right side, the greater numbers of people that are below the poverty level, and where you see it turning to the shade of green, those are the sweet spots, the places where we have the greatest opportunity to make the greatest strides in terms of delivering liberty and justice for all and the common good we share. All of that can be rolled into dashboards that hopefully not just the mayor can understand or the city council, but that citizens can understand. Weighting those factors of education, non-English, average poverty, average non-white, and being able to evaluate policy decisions, deployment of broadband or economic development or sustainability solutions, whether it's water or energy or the like, building retrofits, and whether or not it crosses them. Capital projects. Here's one that looks at the fair allocation of capital projects and what impact that has on particularly underserved communities. Here's one particular council district, diversity index 92.2, number of households below poverty, number of projects, and the ability to compare them from one district to another in a way that everybody can see, because when everybody knows, then everybody knows. Public transit. Dash bus routes are designed to try to help kids get to school that don't have the school bus routes. You can plot those routes. You can see where people are served. And by seeing it on a map, you can also see, answer the question, where are people left behind, right? Bike lanes. This one I find kind of interesting. More and more, especially with COVID, we're starting to see cities remake themselves into places that are better for the health of people rather than the convenience of cars. And yet, even in a city as diverse as Los Angeles, you see a majority of those bike lanes go into white neighborhoods. Micromobility, AKA scooters. I find this pretty cool. Full disclosure, I advise a company called Spin Scooters. They're the orange ones. They're all geocoded, talk about the assets. They have to distribute them every morning, collect them every night. And in order to keep their license to operate in a city like Los Angeles, they have to show that when they deploy them, they're not deploying them in discriminatory ways. No, on the contrary, that they're deploying them to areas that are historically disadvantaged and have not had access to that last mile of mobility in order to make it to public transit. So, conclusion. There is no conclusion, but there is tomorrow. And we can do a lot better tomorrow when it comes to getting things done and citizens affecting real change. We can do that because we've never had better tools than we have today. It's the tools that allow us to deliver the goods of the republic for the common good we share. The tools that make a republic worth defending, worth working for, and worth passing on to our kids, along with a healthier planet.